Hi everyone, this is your host Ernie signing in, and welcome to It Only Happens to Ernie podcast. Hi everyone, welcome back to my podcast. I just want to start off by saying I am so sorry for missing my upload last week. I know there's not a super huge numbers of audience right now, but there are still people listening. There's still people showing up for me, and that means a lot to me. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys. I'm so sorry for the delay. I was sort of beating myself up about it. I, made a commitment to myself and my audience, and I felt like I failed that my third episode's in. But ultimately, sometimes you just have to give yourself some grace and move on and do better next time. So that's what I'm doing. The reason I wasn't able to upload the episode last week is actually kind of connect to this episode. So I have a friend. Her name is Pammy. Hi, Pammy, if you're listening. We have been friends since first grade. When I moved to the US at 12 years old, she also ended up moving here a year or so later as well. But she was in New Jersey and I was in this middle of nowhere small town in West Virginia. Even though we were in the same country, we were still 4 to 5 hours drive apart. But she's always been in my life. I mean, not just physically around like before when we were in Thailand, but emotionally, we always stay connected throughout our long distance friendship over the years. And recently, she came to visit my hometown last week. And something about that just brought back a lot of memories for me. It made me reminisce to what it was like when I first got here. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, please go back to the first one because we left off in the middle seat of the plane, me sitting there not really knowing where I was going or what I was getting myself into. And this week's episode, we are unpacking from that moment that I landed. So, I remember landing in DC. Everything looks sort of similar to Bangkok, except everything was in English. I remember Dad picking us up at the airport. It was late February, maybe March. It was definitely wasn't winter. I remember Dad telling us it was technically spring, and we have just missed the snow season. But I remember it was freezing. We left the airport and got into his old Jeep. And I thought that thing was going to fall apart driving. Like, it was old, it was loud, it was freezing in that Jeep. It was very uncomfortable. I remember we drove for a really long time. I was thinking, like, how far is this place? How far is my new home? And the farther we drove away from the airport, the roads got smaller and smaller, and the mountain views got bigger and bigger. I started seeing fields and mountains and woods. 2.5 hours later, I got out of the car thinking, this place looks like a horror movie. There was nothing but the woods. The house was dated. Dad was definitely a hoarder, so stuff was like sitting everywhere. I met my stepbrother for the first time. That was really awkward and uncomfortable. He was way older than us. He was in college and lived in the basement at the time. He was nice, but I could tell there was tension there. Later that day, we went out to Chinese buffet because that's where my stepdad likes to eat. I remember thinking, I don't like Chinese food. I wasn't, and I still am not a picky eater. We've been to China's before, and I remember I don't like any food from that trip. But, I was also second grade. But I've learned since then that American Chinese is nothing like the true Chinese food. Everything is basically deep fried. Everything is either salty or super sweet. And honestly, that still is my general opinions of American food to this day. I didn't absolutely hate it, but I didn't love it either. but Dad was going there all the time. He made friends with the Chinese owner. We were getting cheap Chinese food all the time. So we ate there a lot. We obviously tried other places, but honestly, we didn't really branch out much. There wasn't much in our little town at the time either. So your options are pretty much all you can eat American or Chinese buffet, fast food, or probably another Chinese place. There was like maybe 4 or 5 Chinese places in this small town, which is so funny because there was no Asian kids in sight. And I've learned as I got older that most of them will have their restaurants or their business in our small town, but majority of their family and their kids were in the city, the big city, where the rest of the Asian communities are. No Asian were truly living here. A month after moving here, my parents told me, okay, we're putting you and your brother in school. You're going to repeat your grade. So at the time, I was in 6th grade. I just finished 6th grade in Thailand. The purpose of this is so that me and my brother can adjust and learn English. I remember being really excited because we were in that house for a month straight. I was bored out of my mind. I remember like I would be on MSN a lot, if anybody even remember those days. Just chatting with my friends. I think Skype was just became a new thing. I was video calling my friends back home every day for that whole month. So the idea of going to school and meeting new people sounded really fun. Even though it was scary and I had to repeat a month or two of 6th grade, it felt like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And I do want to say that was probably the best decisions my parent ever did for us, especially for those early days of moving here. I am so glad I got to experience 6th grades with everyone else, even in that just short amount of time. So the first day of school, my parents, especially my dad, wanted us to go through the whole experience, proper experience of being an American kid. So he dropped me off at the bus stop. I got picked up for the first time in my life in this giant yellow school bus. The bus driver was super chill, super nice. It was in the morning, so the kids were, half asleep as usual. But I can tell people were whispering. I felt this quiet tension. And remember, I was a shy kid growing up. I was that kid that take a good bit of time to warm up to. So I would be so shy first and then yap nonstop once I'm comfortable. So yeah, I've always been really good at the yapping part, to be honest. About 15 minutes of being on that bus, I've got off, walk into middle school for the first time. Every kid was white. Every kid was staring at me. I look back at this memory and feels exactly the same way it felt when I was going through it. It felt like I was in a zoo and I was the new exotic creature. Everyone was coming up to me, looking at me. It was so weird. I didn't understand they were saying at the time, but I remember it and I understand it now. So looking back, I remember people asking me, "Are you the new kid? Oh, you're that Asian kid. What's your name? Can you understand us?" Pool of kids that just asking me nonstop question. They're looking at me, and then out of nowhere, this little blonde hair girl make her way to me. She told everyone to back off. She was speaking English. She was speaking really fast, and she introduced herself to me. She said, "Hi, I'm Amy. Are you Earn?" I couldn't understand anything else she said after that, aside from follow me. I remember thinking, I don't know who she is. I just met this girl. She's so nice, but has a stern way about her. And I hope we can be friends. Then Amy led me to this end of the hallway of the school. There were just lines of locker. I was very much having my fresh off the boat moment here. Like, oh my God, this school looks just like the movies. Everyone looked just like the movie. This is so cool. And then I walk into this class. People were still coming in. I remember Amy telling me, this is our homeroom. I understood what she said because we had the same thing in Thailand and we call it the same as well. Everything sort of get fuzzy after this point. I do remember a few things here. My homeroom teacher name was Mrs. Johnson. Shout out to Mrs. Johnson. And when I tell you I don't think they could have given me a better homeroom teacher, I really mean that. This wonderful woman made me signs that has Thai translation throughout the school, so I know where to go and where everything is. Places like cafeteria, bathroom, and some of them were definitely really funny because this was early 2000 Google translation at its peak. Stuff was getting translated backward in Thai because sentences were structured differently in Thai as well. But I was the only person that found it funny because I was the only kid that knew it was backward and didn't make any sense. I remember Mrs. Johnson asked me to get to the front of the class with her to introduce myself. I remember wanting to disappear right then and there because everyone was already looking. What do you mean I have to walk over there and be the center of attention? But I did as any Thai student would. I listened to my teacher. I remember she said she got something for me. And I don't remember exactly how many of us was in that class. I want to say maybe 20. I remember Amy was in my class and Mrs. Johnson handed me these cards. I didn't understand her at first, but I started to open these cards and all of them would say, "Welcome to USA." And that's when I realized she had every single student in her class make me a welcome card before I came over. I remember thinking, they did this for me? This is like the nicest thing anybody has ever done for me. They took the time to do this, like just for me, a girl they haven't met. When my dad registered me as a new student, he explained the school my situation. He told them she doesn't understand hardly any English, very, very little English. So the school and Mrs. Johnson propped the school as much as they could with what they got at the time. There was no English second language program, no other immigrant kids, no support group, none of that. It was just me. I was the first immigrant, first Asian kid. And I think they were figuring out what to do with me the same way I was figuring out how I was going to survive that middle school. I spent the next month trying to understand this language that I had a hard time learning in school back in Thailand already, except I'm no longer in Thailand. There's no Thai translation. I had to translate English in English. I remember carrying this dictionary and it was sort of useful, but it was only useful in class because you can't translate conversational English in the dictionary. I remember this girl was being super friendly. She said, "Hi, Ern, what's up?" What? Like, what's up? Are you messing with me? What is up? It's just the ceiling that's up. And she wanted to talk to me. I can tell, but I didn't understand what she was trying to ask me at the time. I think Amy was the one that came in and rescued me. She honestly rescued me a lot more times after that too. I mean, the rest of middle school year pretty much after that. I remember feeling absolutely terrified and nervous and so unsure of myself and my English every single day. I remember I cried every night for 2 years straight and never told my parents about this. I just knew it was hard and I think it's going to be hard for a while. But I still don't want to go back to Thailand. It's funny thinking and looking back at those times in my life now as an adult. 17 years later, I don't look back at these years to be as traumatic as it was at the time. I look back and I just laugh. Like I remember I went to school just in time for sixth grade camp. I remember thinking like, oh, like this is really exciting. We had sixth grade camps in Thailand as well. And I'm going somewhere new and maybe I'll make more friends after this camp. I remember we could only take these disposable camera. We couldn't take our phones, or maybe we weren't allowed to use it. I don't even think I had a US phone at this point of time anyways. But I just thought the whole thing of having disposed camera was funny but cool at the same time. I think it had a total of what, like 20 pictures. So you need to be thinking what you really want to capture here. And I, still have those pictures in my memory box. Also, those handmade Welcome to America cards. I kept all that. And when I look back on it or think about those time in that camp, it made me really happy because it was that tiny bits and part that I'm able to say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't relate much to American people before sixth grade, but I know what sixth grade camp is because I was there. When I got to seventh grade, my parents sat me down and told me, this is not a trial run anymore. Whatever grades you get, that's the grade that goes on the record, and there's no fixing it. So I tried really hard. I remember the school set up after school tutor. So Mrs. Willison was my English teacher and naturally became my English tutor after school. I don't remember if it's every day, but maybe the first month it was every day. But it was definitely 3 times a week. I would have to stay an hour or so after school. I remember a few people said to me, oh, did you get a detention? Is that why you're staying late after school? Like, dude, no. I had to stay late to English. I am not a bad kid like some of you guys here, okay? Like, I was so offended by that question. And then I remember, I think it was midterm maybe, or maybe like first quarter of the semester. It was definitely the first set of grades on the official paper. The one you get to take it to your parents. Yeah, it was my real set of grades. I opened up that paper and my heart sank. D's, F's, random C's, and B's, not a single A in sight. I remember this kid named Kirk. God love him. He was just like curious, I think he just thought like I was new, I was different. He always wanted to talk to me, but God, I just thought he was the most annoying kids in school. And Kirk, if you're listening to this, I am so sorry. I look back and laugh now, but at the time, I'm so sorry. I could not stand you. But anyways, Kirk was nosy. He came up to me and asked what grades I got. And I remember I froze. I think I showed him or he ended up seeing it somehow. And he did the whole, ooh, you're in trouble kind of thing, like, ooh, like look at your grades. And I was so embarrassed. I don't know if I cried right then and there, but I definitely went home and bawled my eyes out. I never got grades like this bad in my life. I never got anything below B's and C lilies in Thailand. So seeing D's and F were really detrimental to me. And I just remember staring at it like, how? I was trying so hard, harder than I ever had before in school, and it still wasn't enough. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't going to be easy. I wasn't just catching up, I was behind in language, in school, in everything. And that moment, I realized this was my reality check. I had to work harder, so much harder than everyone else. I understood the weight of it all in that moment as a 12-year-old girl. If I don't work harder, if I don't figure this out soon, I will suffer. My grades will suffer. My future will suffer. I will not make it. And moving to America will be all for nothing. I will be a disgrace, ungrateful, because I made it out of that third world country. Millions of kids from all around the world could only wish they could have the opportunity that I have right now. I got lucky, but that luck could only get me so far if I did not work harder. And I did just that. I remember grades were getting better. I was able to talk more fluently. I made some friends. I was adjusting to this new country, to this new life a little more every day. And then I want to say 7-8 months closer to a year of moving to America, my mom, again, sat me and my brothers down, and she said the 3 most heartbreaking words in my life to this day. She told us, I'm leaving. And that's where I'm going to stop for today. I know that was such a cliffhanger, but I have to leave just enough that you will want to come back for more for the next episode. And as I'm closing on this episode here, I just want to know if you have any similar experience to what I've talked about in today's episode. Did you also grow up with the pressure of having to be good or do good? Are you still carrying that pressure with you to this day? Because I feel like that's stuck with me. I feel like I am still struggling being a perfectionist. I still have that lingering question of if I'm going to make it. Like, did I make it? So if that's you too, you're not alone. And if you're still listening this far, thank you for supporting my podcast. Thank you for being here. And if nobody has said it to you yet today, thank you for being you. And that's a wrap on this episode of It Only Happens to Ernie podcast. This is your host, Ernie, signing out.